You are born drifting. Not from a womb, not from an egg, but from a clone that budded off a lonely blob glued to the bottom of a boat. There's no sunlight here, no celebration. No one even knows you exist, not even you. You are goo. Your first breath isn't a breath at all. You don't breathe, you don't think, you don't cry, you pulse. Congratulations, you're a jellyfish. A soft, boneless bag of mostly water. Transparent, brainless, spineless, basically a floating mucus bubble with commitment issues. And somehow alive. You start as a planula, a microscopic dot with a couple cilia and zero ambition. You drift helplessly, tossed around like a sneeze in a hurricane until you stick to something solid. A rock, a pier, the side of a rusty Coke can. Then you transform. You anchor down, you become a polyp, which is just a fancy word for sea pimple. And there you sit, for weeks, months, sometimes years, attached to the underworld, filtering water and doing your best impression of absolutely nothing. Until one day, something clicks. Your body contracts, twists, fractures. You strobolate, splitting into tiny saucers of your future self. Little jelly hats stack on top of one another like jiggly pancakes. And then, pop! One by one, they launch into the sea. Now you're free. Kind of. You're an ephemera now. Barely bigger than a grain of rice. More suggestion than creature. Your body is 95% water, 4% soft regret, and 1% questionable optimism. No brain, no heart, no bones. Just tentacles and impulse. You drift with the current, hoping life doesn't notice you. It does. Fish, sea turtles, birds, crabs, even other jellyfish. Everyone wants a bite. And you? You don't even know you're in danger. You just feel wrong. So you pulse. And pulse. And hope it helps. Spoiler, it doesn't. Somehow you survive. You grow slowly. You develop tentacles filled with thousands of tiny stingers called nematocysts, little poison harpoons locked and loaded with neurotoxin. Sounds cool, right? Except you can't aim them. You just kind of bump into things and hope they regret it. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you sting a fish and eat it whole. Other times you sting yourself, or another jellyfish, or the same rock you were born on. You're not a predator. You're a floating accident with consequences. You can't see, but you can sense. Light, dark, movement. Sometimes it's plastic. You wrap around a shopping bag, mistaking it for a snack, and drift like a ghost tangled in yesterday's trash. Maybe a sea turtle tries to eat you, confuses you for lunch. It chokes and dies. You don't know. You don't feel guilt, but the ocean keeps the score. Time passes. You're no longer alone. The water's warm, the predators vanish, and suddenly there's too many of you. It's called a bloom, a swarm, a jellyfish apocalypse. Tourists scream. Beaches shut down, power plants overheat, fishermen curse the heavens. To them, you're a nightmare. To you, it's just Tuesday. You're even invading freshwater now. Reservoirs, cooling towers, nuclear plants. Entire cities go dark because of you. Millions spent on jellyfish barriers, nets, divers with vacuum tubes. And all you're doing is drifting, pulsing, existing. But even as you multiply, you're still a target. One day, a net scoops you up along with hundreds of your kind. There's no resistance, no scream. You slosh in a bucket for hours. Half alive, half dying, no one can tell the difference. Eventually, you're dumped back into the sea. Damaged, torn, confused. You don't know what happened, but your body does. You pulse slower now, weaker. Something's fading. Before the end, instinct kicks in. You release sperm, or eggs, or maybe both. It depends what version of you this is. Gender is optional. Commitment is non-existent. Some species carry fertilized eggs in their mouths. Others just shoot and prey. Fertilization is messy, drifting, thoughtless. Still, it works. And somewhere in the open sea, a planula is born. Another you. The cycle begins again. But wait, maybe you're not just any jellyfish. Maybe you're Turritopsis dohrnii, the so-called immortal jellyfish. You age. And when the stress hits, starvation, injury, despair, you pull the ultimate escape move. You revert. Back into a polyp, back into childhood. A biological control Z, over and over. Sounds powerful, godlike. But it's not freedom, it's a loop. A soft, dumb reincarnation you don't control. You aren't eternal. You're just stuck. And in aquariums across the world, your kin float behind glass. People watch you in silence. Kids press their hands to the tank. Their breath fogs the glass. They think you're peaceful, alien, beautiful. But you're just bored, trapped, fed on schedule. No current, no mystery. Just lights and noise and the same fake coral every day. Even when you get out, Say in a tsunami or ballast tank, no one thanks you. You are ballast, afterthought, a hazard wrapped in shimmer. Eventually, even the immortal ones fail. You get eaten, dry out on a beach, or simply fall apart in the depths. There's no pain, just collapse. No final thoughts, no legacy. You melt into the water like you were never there. And yet, you were. For a moment, you shimmered. Your body caught moonlight in the waves like wet lace. You floated through the silence, soft and invisible, carried by forces you never understood. You didn't build, you didn't love, you didn't learn, but you lived in your own weird way. You were a mistake of biology, a glitch in the food chain, a ghost that stings, and somehow that was enough. It sucks to be born as a jellyfish. You have no brain, no voice, no safety. You're lost from birth, alone by design. You drift until you vanish, and no one remembers, but maybe that's the point. Maybe in a world that never stops screaming, there's something beautiful in just floating, in letting go, in pulsing gently against the chaos, then disappearing without a sound. Why it sucks to be born as a jellyfish, but also maybe that's why it doesn't.